Greetings from New York City. This is a very big announcement because there is an innocent, good man, a fit man, a vegan man, a man that has just the best intentions and wants to help all of us live a better life. And that is Sam Bankman-Fried. He has been now officially taken into custody by Bahamian authorities to be extradited back to the United States.
My cell is freezing. I'm a big fat vegan.
He was supposed to testify to Congress today, I imagine via Zoom, and do one of his lame-o tours where he's like,
I feel terrible. What happened? I just $8 billion. I wish I'd been paying attention.
Well, he's not going to be able to do that unless they let him do it from a holding cell on Zoom or something like that, that'd actually be pretty good visually. I'd like to see that. This guy is, in my view, an utter disgrace to humanity. He's an embarrassment. He embarrasses me. He's an embarrassment to the United States. He's an embarrassment to his family. He's an embarrassment to himself. The organization that he started and led contributed to wiping out people's savings. And not just, it's just a little goofy goof. And look, it'll all come out. I'm not judge and jury here, but this is fraud. There's $8 billion missing, Sammy. The bottom line is, and what I want to talk about with you is I want to go through, look at some of the headlines, and then I want to talk about what I think can be some lessons we can learn as long-term investors. And, someone had asked me, based on what I do on my podcast and what I've been doing the last couple of years in terms of creating content, how does this sort of fit in? It seems a little bit off the beaten path, but actually, it's very much, in my view, on the same path that I've been on, because one of my investing heroes, and just heroes generally, Charlie Munger, is probably the biggest advocate for studying failures, learning from the mistakes of others, and not repeating the mistakes that have been made in the past. This to me is one of the biggest examples of something that we want to avoid moving forward. I always talk about the importance of compound money quietly. That's what CMQ stands for. That's how you build wealth. One of the ways you ruin that is you interrupt the compounding process. There's no better way to interrupt that process than to have something go to zero. And unfortunately, it's not just Kevin O'Leary who had everything they put into this go to zero. The Financial Times here notes that Sam Bankman-Fried arrested in Bahamas ahead of U.S. charges. I wonder when they took him into custody how that went. He's like,
hey guys,
he didn't have a t-shirt on.
Hey guys, can I get a t-shirt? Thank you.
Oh my God, put a t-shirt on. What's wrong with your nipples? Like I said, I don't mind body shaming if you steal someone's life savings. Otherwise, I would never do it. But if you do something like he did, all bets are off and the gloves are off. The Wall Street Journal reports that former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried arrested. It says here he was taken into custody in the Bahamas after the U.S. filed criminal charges. Barron's notes FTX founder Bankman-Fried arrested. Fortune.com has him on the front as well. And then the last example I'll show here is in the New York Post. Busted in the Bahamas. Hey, by the way, nice digs. It's like right next to the VRBO ad. Before I say anything else, I want to say I've recorded several videos now about this ordeal as it's unfolded. My personal views are, all jokes aside, that this is a bad guy. I'm of the thinking that there are bad people in the world. I wish that wasn't the case. You just have to maybe live long enough or have a certain perspective or have seen enough. There are some people out there that are bad. I don't think it's the majority of people. But Sam Bankman-Fried is a particularly scary kind of bad because he fooled everyone into thinking he was good. And that's something that is really, I think that requires us to reflect a little bit. People can say whatever they want about what FTX did up to this point or before, they went bad, but they went bad. So that doesn't matter anymore, right? Like you could be running a marathon and you do great for the first 25 miles and then you decide to go and, punch everyone in the face who's over the age of 65 waiting to congratulate the winners before you cross the finish line. And that is going to define your marathon experience. And I hope that it's 26 miles, right? I think it's 26.2. But Sam Bankman-Fried, speaking of 26.2, that's what Sam Bankman-Fried's waistline would be if you cut him in thirds. But don't get me wrong, he's still a vegan, guys. Just remember, he's a vegan. I want to read you guys a couple of pieces here from the Financial Times article. And I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm just going to give you the big pieces of it. Sam Bankman-Fried has been arrested in the Bahamas at the request of U.S. government prosecutors who have filed criminal charges against the disgraced crypto entrepreneur. Bahamian Attorney General Ryan Pinder said the country's police force had taken Bankman-Fried into custody after receiving formal notification from the U.S. government that it had filed criminal charges that was likely to request his extradition. Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, confirmed the arrest on Twitter and said said the move had been taken at the request of the U.S. government. An indictment would be unsealed on Tuesday morning, he added. The arrest and criminal charges confirm that U.S. authorities intend to pursue Bankman-Fried personally. After the catastrophic collapse of FTX last month, the failure of the Bahamas-based exchange, once valued at $32 billion, has resulted in potential losses for millions of creditors, including retail investors, and sent shockwaves through the crypto industry. And that's what I really feel for. It's retail. It's people like us. It's regular investors who are just trying to get some yield in a seemingly, yieldless world. People are saying, people should have realized. It's like, it was so legitimized in so many different ways. I don't fault people, for pursuing it, but that's just my take. I didn't go into it, but I empathize with those who lost or who got themselves into it and ended up losing, especially because Sam Bankman was tweeting, no, everything's fine. Such a dirtbag. We have some written testimony from John Ray III, who was FTX's court-appointed chief executive. He said the trading platform had collapsed because of the absolute concentration of control in the hands of a very small group of grossly inexperienced and unsophisticated individuals. Yeah, take that, Sam. You're not that smart. Stupid. And I really like that because this little punk, sorry, I can't keep my emotions out of this. When he went on, I think it was Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos, he was, George kind of got him in this line where he had to acknowledge that he was not good at something that he said he was good at. And you could tell that really bothered him because this is a guy that really believes in his own intelligence. And look, I'm sure he's smart at some things, just like we all are. But oftentimes people that are really smart can easily think they're smarter than they are, and that's how you get in real trouble. I've learned so much about that from Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, and going back to everything that CMQ really stands on. I mean, you can learn so much just by studying those guys. I mean, all the lessons you need to learn have been figured out before. That was one of my big epiphanies as an individual investor anyway. Ray added that FTX had allowed its affiliated trading firm, Alameda Research, to borrow funds from the cryptocurrency exchange without any effective limits. That's insane. Here's something I wrote down. I'll just share with you. I said, some people collect stamps. Some people collect baseball cards. Charlie Munger collects stupidities. Quote, I collect big calamities in my head and big stupidities. I do that so I can avoid them. I'd say in this instance here, what would we take away that we want to make sure we avoid? Don't invest in something that you don't fully understand or you haven't vetted completely. Listening to Kevin O'Leary on CNBC's Squawk Box, and I did a reaction to that in a video that I posted last night. There was due diligence that it felt like due diligence at the time, but when it came to get into the nitty gritty now, there's clearly some misunderstandings about how things worked. And that can happen. And that's something we have to be very vigilant about, because usually when you're excited to invest in something, your brain sort of makes it very easy to skip over. And that's why checklists are so important and so valuable, not just for investing, but I try to use them now more in just other areas of my life. It takes some discipline, but it really does work. They really do work. The second thing here I'd say is if something seems too good to be true, find out why. I never went near this stuff, and I'm not saying I'm so smart for this, but I didn't understand how you could get such crazy high yield. It just didn't make sense to me. Something that about 7% yields or whatever it was, to borrow a line from Donnie Brasco, it just seemed fugazi. It's a great Charlie Munger quote too. He says, I don't revisit mistakes to bewail them. I revisit them for their learning purposes. Now, I have one last thing to share with you guys, and then I'm going to sign out here. I have gone about building a catalog of mistakes. In doing this, I've tried to focus in on what are the really big ones and what are the root causes. Without, turning this into like a book report, let me give you the high level. Hubris and greed. Hubris and greed are killers in a lot of different ways in life. And there is a individual named Robert B. He's not an investor. He is considered to be the master of disaster. He studies system engineering failures. I mean, he's the guy. If you look him up, Robert B. When he was asked, what are the root causes of these human-caused tragedies, he said hubris and greed. Hubris, you could think of like overconfidence or arrogance, and greed, we all know what greed is. And certainly those two elements are at play in this SBF FTX debacle. I empathize with people, so I'm not here to point fingers or say, well, they shouldn't have done it. I think everyone should have a little bit of empathy in this situation, because you never know what situations you'll find yourself in. You wouldn't want to be the person that people are saying, hey, well, they should have known better. Now, with that being said, if you apply the stuff that we're going over in this video, the odds are you won't be in those situations, but still, I think empathy is important here for the individual investors that were taken. What he did was very criminal. This wasn't a boo-boo. They like to talk about him like he's a whiz kid. He's 30 years old. He's a grown man. That was when I was 18. Okay, Sam Bankman-Fried is 30. Okay, that's 12 years later. So, he's not a kid. You can't give the Elizabeth Holmes defense of just a girl that made a boo-boo, or he's just a little boy that made a little boo-boo. No, Sam Bankman-Fried, he knew enough to know what he was doing, and he defrauded his investors. He ripped off his customers, and he's likely going to pay. I hope he pays he gets the proper punishment for it. That's what the criminal justice system is for. He can pay his debt to society, and we can all move on with our lives. But don't forget this guy, not because you want to hold a grudge against him, but so you're more prepared to deal with the SPFs of the future, because they will pop up, as they always do, and history shows us that. So thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you'll follow, or I should say subscribe, like the video, comment. I'd love to hear from you, and appreciate you for all the support on all my videos thus far. So on that note, I'll talk to you soon. Later.